All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Welcome alumni and welcome panelists to the San Francisco Bay Area info session this evening. My name is Ryan McCarrigan. I'm the Global President of Columbia Venture Community. I am coming to you today from New Jersey on the East Coast, where it is nighttime. I know most of you are out on the West Coast, where it is still the evening and light out. So the purpose of tonight's session is to give you, assuming that you are based somewhere in the Bay Area, to give you an overview of Columbia Venture Community and our work and what we're all about. So we're going to cover quite a range of things, and we're going to talk about our lineup in terms of programming this fall. And we're also going to introduce you to some local leaders on the CVC side, as well as leadership from the Regional Columbia Club of Northern California. So let's get started. So again, I'm Ryan, and a little background on me. I've been involved with CVC since about 2008. The first job I ever got in tech was actually through CVC in 2009. So you could say I've really come full circle. I'm a graduate of the college in 2008. And in addition to CVC, I work as a consultant. I work in the product design and innovation space. I have my own consulting practice, and the thing that I'm really known for is my work in the lean startup community. Work with a lot of startups, also do a lot of work in corporate innovation around lean methodologies and teaching teams how to implement lean. And with me, we have the new lead of the Bay Area chapter, Sunny. Why don't you say a few words, Sunny? Unmute.
There we go. Hey, everyone. I'm Sunny Singh, graduated from the college in 2016. I've been in the Bay Area for almost about 2 years now. I was up in Seattle prior to that, and I've been involved with CVC for about a year and some change, actually. And, you know, CVC was great when I first came to the Bay Area. I got to actually meet a lot of people who were like-minded and were interested in a lot of things that I was interested in sort of the entrepreneurship and venture space. And it was super helpful, especially as, you know, I was looking out for different opportunities and whatnot shortly after coming to the Bay Area. After graduation, I was at Amazon for a few years and have recently transitioned over to Corner Shop as a US expansion lead.
Cool. Well, we are excited to have you on the team, Sunny, and excited to work with you on developing programming this fall through CVC and with our close partner, CIA NorCal. Speaking of which, we have our NorCal organizers here as well, Dan Lee and Christian Laredo. Why don't the two of you introduce yourselves briefly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Lee. I'm the Vice President of the Northern California chapter of the Columbia Alumni Association. Class of 1991 from the School of Engineering, and we moved to the Bay Area about 12 years ago. So just like to make a very quick intro to our club. We are the umbrella organization that serves the alumni from all of the undergraduate and graduate schools at Columbia. And in Northern California, there's about 10,000 of us, which makes us one of the largest clusters of alumni outside of New York City. And we, every year, we organize anywhere between 25 to 30 events along multiple verticals, including events with involving entrepreneurship. And we look forward to meeting you in our future events. Thank you.
And hi there, my name is Christian. I also graduated from the engineering school. Also kind of came out to the West Coast about 13 years ago. Prior to that, I was on the East Coast, also working in tech, a lot of telecom background. And yeah, I'm pretty new to this role. I've been involved with the San Francisco chapter of my graduate school, but haven't been too involved with Columbia yet. So just recently stepped into this role. I'm going to be focusing a lot on programs in the innovation and entrepreneurism space, and hopefully getting some partnerships lined up for us with some of the other local colleges that have a strong presence in the Bay Area, even though for the foreseeable future, all of our meetings are going to be Zoom or online in some way, in some capacity. And the other thing I'm trying to do is make some inroads into other organizations that can involve us in other, their particular demo days, things like TechCrunch. Some of there's a bunch of different platforms on fintech that I think are interesting and might be appealing to the rest of the broader membership, as well as things like Founders Institute, and they've got just a ton of events across the board. So we will be reaching out, trying to find out and gauge what people have a strong interest in. And then once we find some, topics or themes or verticals to go after, I will line up some fun things for us to attend. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And we'll be talking a little bit more about NorCal as we move into the presentation and the way that CVC and NorCal work with each other, and more broadly speaking, how CVC works with the Columbia Alumni Association in close partnership. So, so I'm going to breeze through a bunch of slides, which, with the goal of giving you a high-level overview of us as an organization. There will be an opportunity to post questions in the chat and Q&A. We have a smaller group today, so when we conferred before starting, we decided that as we see questions come in, we may just stop and address them in real time rather than wait until the Q&A at the end. However, we do encourage you to stick around for the Q&A at the end, because that is an opportunity for us just to sort of chat and answer any questions that you have. So we're going to talk about mission and values. I'm going to talk about the global board and our presence, some of our strategic partners and global programs and initiatives that we're currently running and things that are launching this fall. Then we're going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourselves just in the chat. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Bay Area and how you can get involved if you're interested in volunteering. All right, so key statistics. So believe it or not, CVC was actually founded 14 years ago at Columbia Business School. It was founded by Mark Peter Davis and some friends at the business school who felt that there was not enough attention or not enough resources for business school students interested in venture, and then later as it evolved, venture and entrepreneurship and the startup ecosystem. So when people see the name Columbia Venture Community, people that aren't really familiar with our mission will look at that and think that we are solely focused on venture. It's a bit of a misnomer. We are not just focused on venture. We're really one of the largest alumni groups focused on entrepreneurship and everything that's related to entrepreneurship, and in particular, the Columbia Innovation Ecosystem. Technically, we fall under the umbrella of the Alumni Association. We are an autonomous and independent group, but we are also classified as a shared interest group through CAA. And in terms of size, we are one of the largest. We like to consider ourselves the #1 alumni group for entrepreneurship and innovation because we are so inclusive. And that's something that I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. We are a big tent organization in the sense that we welcome alumni and students and staff from any school at the university. And we also like to think of ourselves as the glue that holds a lot of the other groups together in terms of communication and coordination, because Columbia is a pretty decentralized university as far as major universities go. Sometimes different parts of the university, they don't speak to each other as often as they should, but we really feel that we play a key role in facilitating a lot of that communication and coordination between the different groups. So our mission statement, which we just retooled earlier this year, is that we foster entrepreneurship among Columbia University alumni, students, and staff by facilitating communication, providing access to needed resources, and creating a vibrant and supportive community. So this is really our North Star. This is what we think about every day as we design programming, as we talk to members, as we really are almost neurotic in the way that we try to align the needs of our members and the community with the programming that we design and launch. So I've been in the global board, on the global board for a number of years, I guess 5 years. I've been in this role for the past 3. Our global VP is Cortland Thomas. He is also our New York City chapter lead, and he's based in New York. I mentioned that I'm in New Jersey. Admittedly, I escaped the fires just as they were beginning. That's why I'm here. But I'll be returning back to San Francisco probably towards the end of next week. Our global communications liaison based in New York is Esther Pang. Our global chapter development lead is Esther Kim, who is based in Seoul. And I believe, I can't pull up the list of who's on right now, but I think Esther is on and may want to share a few words later. And then Leanne Heidelberg, head of content, Rope Martela, who's head of VC matching, and Shashi Srikantan, who's heading up the Columbia Women's Initiative. And so if you get involved with CVC, these are some names and some people that you'll hear from more depending on which programs you get involved with. Our values. So we also retooled our values earlier this year. We kind of, we came together as a global board, and there were some real priorities that we wanted to emphasize. And in redoing the values, that is, we really wanted to surface some things that we'd been feeling for a number of years. And so our new list of values are inclusivity, diversity, human-centered focus, connecting, energizing, and educating. I'm not going to read each one of these. You can read them, and I'll just speak to them briefly. By the way, these slides will be shared, and a recording will be shared of this talk afterwards. But one of the things that we really feel that we need to take more seriously as an organization is, this huge initiative around diversity, equity, and inclusion. In fact, we are currently we are just about to start an assessment around DEI. We're working with an alumna who does this professionally, and it's something that we've been really excited to do. We intentionally have inclusivity and diversity and human-centered at the top of the list in this order, because we really feel strongly that it's our responsibility to embrace the diversity of the CVC community and, of course, the broader Columbia University community, and to make sure that different groups are represented in our programming, in our leadership, in everything that we do. Right now, the global board is more than half female. The board has people of color. The board is queer. I mean, we are a diverse board, but we can always do better. It's not enough just to look that way. We recognize that equity and inclusion are often overlooked, and this is something that we are taking very seriously moving forward. We're also really committed to ensuring that there are outsiders who sort of audit that as well. So that's something else that we're building into that initiative. So partners, very important. We would not be able to function without our key partners. So as I said before, the Columbia Alumni Association, we work very, very closely with. I don't know what we would do without CAA, but I really have to give huge credit to NorCal and the relationship that we've had with NorCal over the past 6-7 years. Originally, my good friend, Nadine Rose Carroll, who was the president, she and I worked together very closely for years to really get both chapters moving at the same time. So we sort of built our chapters together. But now, continues to have wonderful leadership, and we're so excited that Dan and Christian are our primary liaisons into NorCal, and we're excited to work closely with them. Do you guys want to add to that? Do you want to say anything else about some of the programming that we're thinking of, and some of the opportunities on the NorCal side that people who are in the webinar today might be interested in, even outside the scope of tech?
Absolutely. So I'll start, and maybe Christian can chime in later. Prior to this, I had talked about, the variety of events and programming that we do every year, along multiple verticals. Now, because we're in the Bay Area, entrepreneurship and innovation is one of our most important verticals. And within this space, I can say that Columbia Venture Community is our most important partner, period. And Ryan and his team are our go-to people when we want to explore new ideas within this space. Before I became the vice president of the club, I actually served in Christian's role. I was the old director of entrepreneurship and innovation. So I actually had the pleasure of working with Ryan on a number of events involving entrepreneurship. So I just want to say I deeply value and appreciate the relationship that we have with CVC.
Thank you, Daniel.
And just expanding on that for a moment, yeah, I'm happy to have the torch passed on to me from Dan. Definitely looking forward to deepening our relationship, with the venture community. And then if you're on the call and you have some good ideas, I think basically the way I see things going forward is we have two main brackets, right? One is going to be more just content focused. And there's a couple different things that we're looking at that are obviously that just make sense, but certainly we've got open minds. So if somebody has strong feelings that there should be a topic that could come to our attention, by all means, just share with myself or any of the panelists on board, and we'll put our heads together and see if we can get ourselves invited to or partner with another organization to kind of make that happen for us. So content focus is sort of one of the pillars. The other one's really networking, right? It would be great to not only have our membership meet like-minded peers on whatever the topic happens to be. Would love to make it a great way to kind of augment and bolster and promote networking, not only amongst ourselves, but with other subject matter experts and some of the different topics that we're looking at.
Yeah, just to add to what Christian has been saying, as sort of specific examples. So within we're calling this the entrepreneurship space. We've been working with Ryan, on sort of kind of working together with CVC and our parent organization, the Columbia Alumni Association in New York City, to identify professors from various schools. It could be engineering school, it could be any of our schools, who would actually speak to our NorCal community on various sort of topics involving, it could be emerging technology, it could be just any of the topics that are the most relevant to our community. So these are just like some of the examples of the stuff that we work on together with CVC.
Great. All right. Thank you guys for giving that overview. And I just want to echo that there's so many opportunities to get involved with both groups or to kind of straddle both groups. Whatever you want to do, whatever you're interested in, let us know, and we can certainly find a place for you. And as Christian said, if anyone has ideas for programming, don't hesitate to just drop that into the chat, because we take those suggestions very seriously, and we want to hear from you. And like I said, we want to be human-centered in the way that we solicit feedback and design programming around what members and what alumni actually are interested in. So just quickly, some other key partners. We work also with Columbia Entrepreneurship, which is through the President's Office. Chris McGarry runs that group. And then the Lang Center at Columbia Business School we work with as well. 500 Startups is kind of our main venture partner, but specifically through their ecosystems development arm. So they do workshops, training, things of that nature. Unfortunately, because of COVID, some of the initiatives that we had been working with on 500 had to be tabled. And so I believe that as things improve, some of those programs will come back, some of the in-person workshops and training. But we've worked very hard with 500 to put educational programming together that benefits our community and also benefits theirs. We also work with Wildcat Venture Partners. They're based in Silicon Valley as well. We did an event series with them last year and earlier this year before COVID around one of their partners, Bruce Cleveland, and a book that he did called Traversing the Traction Gap, which if you're into sort of the canon books of entrepreneurship, including, the Lean Startup and Crossing the Chasm and Innovator's Dilemma, I personally am very passionate about this book that Bruce wrote, and I really think it is deserving of joining that canon of work. So there are a number of initiatives that we have with them, as well as one of their portfolio companies, Greenfig, which has worked with us to design curricula around, some classes. And some of that is also sort of temporarily on hold because of COVID, because those classes were really designed to be taught in person. But as things improve, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to reignite some of those initiatives. So in terms of programs that are running, because there is a lot going on despite our COVID reality, we have been just busy as heck, to be honest, over the last 6 months, running webinars, running virtual events, all kinds of events. Obviously, if you know anything about our history, we've done almost 500 events in the past 14 years. More than half of them have just been in the past 5 years. It was a big deal for CVC to pivot to all virtual. We were a little unsure of how that would go, but it's gone pretty well. And we're proud of the programming we've been able to put on. Beginning in, really in March, we started doing virtual programs, but we designed some series, a marketing podcast series and a webinar series with prominent guest speakers, which launched in April and May. And then we have some additional things. We have a women's initiative, Columbia Women's Initiative, that's launching in late September. We have a brand new healthcare mentorship network that's also launching in late September. And then we have our venture engagement program. So let me explain a little bit about this. The venture engagement program started last year, 2019, and it's actually gone through 5 cohorts. The 6th cohort will be accepting applications in December. Basically, the way that VEP works is like this. If you have at least one Columbia founder or a Columbian who's a member of the senior leadership team in that startup, and if you are actively seeking to fundraise, then you can apply to our venture engagement program. We look at the team, technology, and traction. We call it, the 3 T's model, and some other key metrics. And it's sort of low touch due diligence, if you will. And then based on what we feel are teams that are in a good position to receive introductions, we will facilitate that as introductions to our network of venture partners, of which there are several dozen. And remarkably, about 1 out of 5 of those companies actually go on to receive funding as a direct result of those introductions. So we're pretty proud of the program. It's only gotten better as we've learned sort of how to make the process more efficient and how, what to look for in the teams. Most of them are pre-seed and seed, although we, in the most recent cohort, started to look more at Series A. We'll continue to sort of expand the focus of that program as we move forward. So then the newest offering that'll be launching in October is our premium workshop offering. So I've been working with a couple members of the team to design 8 different premium workshops on topics ranging from design sprint training, intro to design methodologies, professional development for startup founders, professional development for people in career transition and for young alumni, startup pitch deck training, all kinds of fun things. And this is sort of, this is very much influenced by our members and our annual member survey and the types of things that they're looking to learn more about. And so because of COVID and because we're not generating revenue from in-person events anymore, we've really kind of pivoted to this experiment to see if we can actually have revenue from premium workshops. And I'm mentioning this because I am actually looking for people to work with who are interested in kind of developing this new product, if you will. I very much see it as a product, and I'd like to, run it through experiments and validation and all the kinds of things that we would do with any other product to make sure that we're delivering value to members and that we're delivering the right content, frankly. There's still some question there. But if anyone is interested in working with me on the design of that, I would love to hear from you, and we can follow up about that after. So now we want to hear about you guys. So in the chat, in a single line, what we'd love to know is where do you work? What's your current role? And where do you live? And even if you're not in the Bay Area, you're welcome to answer these questions. All of that text, we'll have that text after the webinar since it's being recorded, and we do look at it. We're just curious to know kind of where people are from. So let's give you about 30 seconds, maybe a little less, to answer that and to submit it in the chat. So again, where do you work? Industry, current role, where do you live? And if you want to share anything else, by all means. I'll give you another few seconds. People shy. All right. Well, let's move on. And feel free to keep typing if you'd like. And I am going to, so Sunny and I are going to tag team this now, and I'm going to hand it over first, though, to Sunny to talk about the Bay Area.
Yeah. So, all of us are, I guess, familiar with the Bay Area, but obviously there's a lot of activity here in terms of the entrepreneurship and venture world. For CVC in particular, right, this is our second largest chapter outside of New York. I think that's also the second largest concentration of, Columbia alumni outside of New York. And you can see here, I mean, the charts kind of speak for themselves, right? In terms of the most unicorn companies in the world, right? San Francisco simply, has the most there. In terms of VC funding, the Bay Area is kind of split out in this chart, but between San Francisco, Palo Alto, Mountain View, San Mateo, Redwood City, there's just a lot of resources out here in terms of VC funding. I think what CVC tries to do in this is, not necessarily focused on, strictly unicorn companies or strictly VC funding, but tries to sort of build that community. We know that, there are a lot of Columbia alumni here. who are involved in entrepreneurship and innovation and the venture world, and we want to be a space for them to sort of connect with other alumni and sort of foster that community that a lot of us had in New York outside of there.
That's well said. And I would add to that, I think that there is a feeling, a collective feeling among those of us that work in the industry and have for a long time, that Columbia is not known for being a school that can stand shoulder to shoulder with like the tech-oriented schools like MIT and Stanford. But if you look at the statistics around what our alumni actually do, key statistics like what percentage of Columbia alumni raise funding by, at a certain point after graduation, we're actually one of the top 5, like right on the heels of those schools that I just mentioned. But interestingly, the university doesn't position itself that way, despite how, if you look at the tracks people take at Columbia Business School over the past 10, 15 years, it has really changed from being a feeder into the investment banks and really kind of changed to, students being much more interested in entrepreneurship. So, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is kind of like grabbing, the university by the shoulders and shaking them and being like, wake up, like this is Columbia, like this is something that we need to broadcast more and that we need to get behind. And slowly but surely you see that positioning changing, and you see that there are stakeholders that are really trying to change that message. But there's so much going on in the Bay Area, it's insane. And I added this Crunchbase graphic just because I thought it was funny the way that they broke out the individual cities in the region rather than just have the Bay Area. So there's something quite telling in that. And yeah, so getting involved.
Yeah, so we'll share these slides so you can click on these links directly, but there are a lot of paths to kind of stay aware of what CVC is doing. So you can certainly, if you're interested in being involved more hands-on, follow the link in that presentation to volunteer. I think there was a question in the chat regarding, if you're not necessarily interested in looking for raising funds, but want to share your time and skill set, like are there opportunities? Absolutely. We're 100% not solely focused on just helping people getting funding or making introductions of that sort. I think, going back to what Ryan touched on, right? Like we're here to build a community, right? And within the sort of Bay Area ecosystem, that is, much, much bigger than funding, right? There's the legal side, there's a community for folks who, like in design, UX, developers, business development, all sorts of things that kind of fit under CVC's purview, and that we try to sort of bring together. And so if you're interested in sort of helping to build that community, and we would love to either put on events or potentially even be a speaker at the events, feel free to fill out that form or just reach out to me or Ryan to see how you can get involved. And then going through the communication channels, Meetup is actually really useful in terms of staying up to date on the events that are happening. Right now, a lot of them are virtual, so you can see what's going on in other chapters at CVC. But soon, hopefully, we may have some in-person events as well, depending on when things improve. There's also the Medium where there are posts every so often, LinkedIn group, Facebook group, and website that you can check out.
Yes, and if anyone is not familiar with Meetup, this is what our landing page looks like on Meetup, and all you need to do is request to join. We do ask for you to supply your uni, or just give your whole Columbia email address. That's the way that we validate that everyone is actually affiliated with the university in some way. And I can approve those requests almost right away. So once you're in, you'll start to see communications go out. You'll receive our monthly newsletter and our new content newsletter that comes out mid-month. And you'll see event invitations, and you'll also have the opportunity to, if you want to bookmark our events calendar, you can have sort of a high-level view there as well. And we are up to almost 6,000 members as of today, 5,934 members. So upcoming events.
Yeah, I can help run through some of these. I mean, in only a couple of days, we'll have the 6th annual San Francisco Demo Night, which Ryan can talk about a little more. There's the 10th annual NYC Demo Night coming up as well. There's on October 14th, the San Francisco Demo Night will be at the end of this month on September 30th. There's the Columbia Alumni Demo Night on 10/21. And then we have a virtual discussion, the Metaverse, on November 11th.
Yeah, so one thing that I didn't mention before, so we have some event formats that we've been very consistent about for many, many years. We have incubation nights, which are sort of like very scaled down, small, intimate sessions where maybe 2 or 3 founders get in front of a room or get on a Zoom, and everyone who's participating in that sort of gives feedback on something that they have a problem with, whether it's a sales pitch or whether it's a pitch deck or getting to their first 100 users. Whatever that thing is, they sort of workshop it in a casual group setting. So that's on like the small casual end of things. But on the other end, our big annual event every year is Demo Night. So we've been doing demo nights since our founding, basically. But about 10 years ago, Demo Night became more of a formal annual big event. And so in New York on October 14th, we're celebrating our 10th annual Demo Night. And next week on the 30th is the 6th annual Demo Night in San Francisco. We then have our first one ever in London on the 21st. So Demo Night is our biggest event of the year. They're happening in rapid succession. They're remote for the first time ever. And, we'd love you to attend all or one or whatever. The San Francisco Demo Night this year is unique in that our focus is going to be on health tech companies. So we have 5 companies that are participating. 4 of them are based in the US and 1 is based in Korea. They run a pretty wide range in terms of, just basic intersection of digital health and technology. And I think that, it's an interesting spread. And if you're interested in health tech, it's a great opportunity to network with other alumni that are working in the space. We also have several judges that have health tech expertise that will be asking questions and providing feedback to the teams after each of their 3-minute pitches ends. We will send out the invitation to San Francisco Demo Night with the slides and with this recap after tonight's webinar. But if you want to get a head start and sign up, you can also just look for us on Eventbrite, and it should be the first event that comes up on our Eventbrite, or just Google 6th Annual San Francisco Demo Night. All right, so we want to do a little poll. We want to learn a little bit about what you would want from CVC as a member. So there's one question basically, and you have the option to select up to 3 choices. Okay. I'm also going to let the panelists vote because I'd like to hear what they think as well. And so the question I'm going to pose is, what are you most interested in getting out of the Columbia venture community? Again, please select no more than 3 choices. Okay, so I'm going to launch the poll now. All right, make your final selections before I end the poll. And it looks like So I see 70%. So 10 of you responded, and 7 out of 10 want to meet Columbia alumni in their industry. That's certainly something that we can help with because we do have industry themed events. And our most recent annual member survey was very specific around what industries and professions people had, which allows us to be even more targeted in terms of designing programming around specific interests. And we plan to do a lot more segmentation like that moving forward now that we have that data. And then I see a couple at 40%, people are interested in receiving help or feedback on something they're building. And folks wanted to meet investors and potentially get funding for, I'm assuming, for their startups. All right, cool. Thanks for sharing that. We will have the polling data to share with everybody afterwards as well. Can everybody see this on their screen? We're going to share it by email with the recording afterwards as well. Okay, so Q&A, that's it. So what questions do people have? You can add questions to the chat. So I see a question from Javier Mendez. For some of us, UX designers, developers, etc., who aren't necessarily looking to raise funds, but would like to share our time and skill set, would CVC have any opportunities for my type? Absolutely. I'm also a UX person and a designer, and there are plenty of opportunities to network and share your skill set as a mentor, as someone who can just pop into discussions that happen on the email listserv and provide feedback to people and advice. There are plenty of opportunities. We are a very diverse crowd. About 1/3 are institutional investors, about 1/3 are startup founders, and then there's sort of this other bucket of everything else you can imagine, service providers, lawyers, everyone. There's a very diverse crowd of people in CVC. And so because of that, there are opportunities to share your knowledge and resources and anything else you want with the community. What other questions do people have? Feel free to just drop them into the chat. Do our panelists perhaps have a question to seed while the rest of you are thinking?
So if I'm interested in a specific event or a specific industry, but I'm not sure if there are even Columbia alumni there, what route should I go to see if CVC can help me out?
That's a great question. Well, there are a few different routes. You can always message someone on the global board. I'm always fielding questions like that through email or through Meetup. People message me, I'd say 3 to 4 times a week, asking whether there's an outlet for them, and if not, can they start something? So we're open to working with anyone around anything that they're interested in proposing if we think that it's going to be beneficial to the community. If you're motivated and we think that's going to add value, then we're happy to have a conversation. Every niche imaginable, we can explore. At the same time, I think that we also want to be conscious of what we know our members are interested in based on our surveys and based on the conversations we have. But if you're motivated and you want to get involved and you want to start something, then we're not going to say no to that. Any other questions? Yeah, so Brendan O'Hara is asking for more information about, I'm assuming, about the venture engagement program. So I can share more information about that. And I can also direct you to our website. So if you go to columbia.vc, there is a section on the top navigation. It says venture matching or investor matching. And so on that landing page, you'll see a little bit more of an explainer, and you'll see some, a breakdown of what we offer to startups and investors who apply for the program. So originally we were just making these introductions between eligible startups and our network of venture partners, but that has evolved. And we're actually partnered now with Y Combinator and Techstars. We did webinars with Jenny Fielding from Techstars last month and Michael Siebel from Y Combinator. They both gave sort of an overview of how to apply to the programs. If you're not familiar, I shouldn't assume, but if you're not familiar with Techstars and Y Combinator, they're two of the most competitive startup accelerators in the world. They're, really strongly mentor-driven, really fast-paced, really excellent curricula, and all about growth. So a lot of companies apply to those accelerators. Only a small percentage get in. I don't know what the latest percentages are. I would imagine it's harder to get in than it is to Columbia. But we are working with them and making introductions for teams that we think are eligible, and their teams are reviewing those submissions and giving them a closer look than they might normally. We also are working with some other programs in addition to those, and we're exploring some other possible channels as well. Any other questions from the attendees? Because of the possibility that folks are still formulating questions, we won't go yet. We have a few more minutes, but I'll just say in closing that CVC has been an enormous passion of mine for many years. I have worked really hard to grow the organization, to create value everywhere possible. And it's a volunteer-led organization. All of us are volunteers. We put a lot of our personal time into this, and I'm a big believer in the karma that comes out of these types of things. If you give a lot of yourself and you're generous with your time and your resources, then you get a lot back, and that could not be more true of CVC. We don't have exact statistics, but over the past 14 years, we have very likely led to more than $2 billion in deals, in funding. And that mostly is just from people within the listserv and within the community, making introductions, having conversations, networking, and helping one another. This is by far the most generous community that I've ever been part of. It's just stunning to see how willing people are to share their time, to make introductions, to facilitate connections. It's really, really special. And so if you're not already involved, I hope you will consider getting involved. I hope you will, begin to see that Columbia is one of the big giants in the innovation space, in tech. We have a huge presence in Silicon Valley. You can't walk more than a few steps without bumping into a Columbia alum in the Bay Area. So we hope that you will join us. Any other comments that fellow panelists would like to share? Okay, any final questions from the attendees? I'll give you another minute before we end. You should expect the follow-up sometime tomorrow, because we have to process the recording. All right.
Great job, Ryan.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you for your time this evening, Christian, Daniel, Sunny. Looking forward to a great fall with some fun programming.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, thanks so much for spending an hour with us, and have a good evening and a good rest of your week. And take care.
Bye.
Bye, guys.